in the brain. Picture this. Somewhere inside your body, right now, there's a war being fought. One you can't see, can't feel directly, but one that's quietly shaping how tired you are, how clear your thinking is, how your skin looks, even how your heart is aging. And the trigger for all of it is something most of us swallow without a second thought. Dozens of times a day, hidden in foods that don't even taste sweet. Sugar? Here's what almost nobody tells you. The moment you cut sugar out completely, your body doesn't just slowly improve in some vague, far-off way. It starts changing immediately, and then it keeps changing, week after week, in ways that build on each other. Some of these shifts you'll feel within hours. Others take days. A few won't show up for months, quietly working away inside your arteries, your liver, your brain. But every single one of them starts the moment you say no to sugar and actually mean it. So let's walk through exactly what happens, stage by stage, system by system, when sugar disappears from your plate for good. Because once you understand the mechanics behind it, you'll never look at a candy bar, a soda, or a healthy granola bar quite the same way again. Most people think of sugar as a small, harmless indulgence, a treat, a reward, something separate from the rest of their health, something they can deal with later. But your body doesn't see it that way at all. Your body sees a constant high-frequency signal that it has to respond to over and over, every single time you eat it, all day, every day. And when that signal never stops, your organs never really get the chance to rest, reset, or repair. That's the part nobody puts on the label. The very first thing you'll notice, and it usually happens faster than people expect, is that the relentless pull towards something sweet finally starts to loosen its grip. To understand why, you have to understand the trap sugar sets for you in the first place. Every time you eat something sugary, your blood sugar shoots upward. Your body, sensing danger, panics, and floods your bloodstream with insulin to drag that sugar back down, except it usually overcorrects. Blood sugar doesn't just return to normal, it crashes below baseline. And that crash is what doctors call hypoglycemia, a state of low blood sugar that your brain interprets as an emergency. Your brain's solution to that emergency? Demand more sugar immediately to fix the very problem sugar just caused. This is the loop. Eat sugar, spike, crash, crave, eat sugar again. It's not a willpower problem. It's a chemical seesaw your body built for you, and it will keep tipping back and forth for as long as you keep feeding it sugar. The moment you stop completely, not less sugar, but none, there's nothing left to spike and nothing left to crash. No crash means no emergency signal. No emergency signal means no craving. Within days, sometimes faster, that desperate, almost involuntary pull towards something sweet starts to fade, and for many people, it never really comes back. Think about what that actually means for your day-to-day life. No more standing in front of the pantry at 3 in the afternoon, half aware of what you're even reaching for. No more giving in to the vending machine just to get through the last stretch of the workday. That pull wasn't a character flaw. It was a biochemical alarm bell going off. And once it stops ringing, food simply stops having that kind of power over your decisions. Next comes something almost nobody connects to sugar, that nagging, can't-shake-it hunger that seems to follow you around no matter how much you eat. The reason isn't a lack of food, it's that your cells have stopped listening. When sugar levels stay elevated for too long, your cells start to defend themselves. They essentially put up a wall against insulin, the hormone whose entire job is to escort sugar and nutrients into your cells for fuel. This is insulin resistance, and it's a self-protective mechanism gone wrong. Your bloodstream is full of fuel, but your cells can't access it because the door has been locked from the inside. The result is a body that's simultaneously overfed and starving. Plenty of sugar circulating, but minerals, vitamins, and usable energy locked outside the cells that need them most. Your brain only sees one side of that equation, the starving part. So it keeps sending out hunger signals again and again, even though there's no actual shortage of fuel anywhere in the system. This is why sugar doesn't just taste good, it actively manufactures false hunger out of thin air. Cut sugar out and that wall starts coming down. Insulin sensitivity returns. The doors reopen. Nutrients finally reach the cells that have been begging for them for years, and your brain's hunger signals start reflecting reality again, instead of a chemical lie your body's has been telling itself. Most people are genuinely stunned by how much less they want to eat once their cells are finally being fed properly. Some, for the first time in a very long time. It helps to picture it like a warehouse full of supplies with the loading dock bolted shut. The trucks keep arriving, the shelves inside stay empty, and somebody keeps radioing in for more deliveries because nobody inside knows the supplies were sitting right outside the whole boat. Time. Reversing insulin resistance is like finally unbolting that door. Suddenly the warehouse fills up, the radio calls stop, and your body settles into knowing it actually has enough. Then there's the fog. You know the feeling. You eat lunch, and 20 minutes later your eyelids feel like they weigh 10 pounds each. You can barely string a sentence together or focus on a screen. People call it a food coma, like it's just a normal, unavoidable part of eating. It isn't. That heaviness is your brain reacting to a flood of sugar in your blood. High blood sugar doesn't just affect your body, it directly affects how alert your brain is able to be, slowing down mental processing and triggering that drowsy, sluggish, can't focus feeling that hits right after a meal like clockwork. Once sugar is gone and your blood sugar levels settle into a steady, stable range, that crash disappears entirely. Meals stop being something you have to recover from. Instead of dragging through the afternoon, you stay sharp, awake, and clear-headed long after you eat, because your brain is finally running on a fuel supply that doesn't spike and stall every few hours. Imagine going through an entire afternoon, the part of the day that used to belong to the food coma, and actually staying productive the whole way through. No second coffee just to claw your way back to baseline. No staring at the same paragraph for 10 minutes because your brain has checked out. That's not a hypothetical. It's simply what a brain running on stable fuel is capable of doing. Now let's talk about the scale, because this is where things tend to get dramatic, fast. In the very first week of cutting sugar, your body does something most people don't expect. It dumps an enormous amount of stored water. Sugar binds to water inside your tissues, and when sugar intake stops, your body releases all of that retained fluid in a hurry. Some people lose as much as 13 pounds of pure water weight in that first week alone. And this isn't just a satisfying number on a scale. That retained fluid was placing real, measurable strain on your heart, and letting it go takes a genuine load off your entire cardiovascular system right out of the gate. After that initial flush, something different begins. Real fat loss. This is the part that shows up not just on the scale, but in the mirror, your midsection, your waistline, the stubborn area that never seemed to budge no matter what you tried before. That's usually the first place people notice the change, because that's exactly where sugar-driven fat tends to accumulate first, and exactly where it tends to leave first once sugar is finally out of the picture. This is also exactly why so many people get discouraged too early. The scale jumps dramatically in week 1 thanks to all that water, then seems to level off in week 2 while the body shifts into actual fat-burning mode. That plateau isn't a stall, it's a transition. The number on the scale slows down because the kind of weight coming off has changed, from fluid to fat, and fat simply takes a little more time to release than water does. Here's one that surprises almost everyone. Your mood changes. Not in a vague, I feel a little better kind of way, but in a measurable, noticeable shift in how your brain handles stress, emotion, and focus. Without the constant chemical chaos of blood sugar spikes and crashes, your nervous system finally gets a chance to relax. People consistently report feeling calmer, less anxious, less on edge throughout the day. But it goes further than just emotional steadiness. Your actual cognitive function improves alongside it. Concentration sharpens. Your attention span stretches out instead of constantly snapping back to your phone or wandering off mid-task. Many people notice far fewer of those scattered, can't sit still, can't finish a thought symptoms that mirror attention difficulties, not because anything fundamental changed about who they are, but because their brain finally has a stable fuel supply to work with instead of riding the sugar roller coaster from morning to night. It's worth pausing on this one because it's easy to underestimate just how much of what we chalk up to just how my brain works is actually downstream of blood sugar swings. A steadier internal chemistry tends to translate into a steadier internal experience. Conversations feel easier to follow. tasks feel less overwhelming to start. None of that requires a new strategy or a new app. It falls out almost automatically once the chemical noise quiets down. Now, your skin. This one is tied directly to hormones, and the mechanism plays out a little differently depending on whether you're a man or a woman, but the sugar connection behind it is identical. In women, elevated insulin levels, the direct result of regular sugar intake, push androgen hormones higher than they should normally sit. Androgens are part of what drives breakouts, and that hormonal shift is a major reason sugar and acne are so closely linked in the first place. In men, elevated insulin works a little differently but ends in a similarly unwanted place. It actually lowers testosterone, throwing off the hormonal balance that, among other things, helps keep skin clear and healthy. Take sugar out of the equation, and both of those hormonal disruptions start to reverse course. Insulin settles down. Androgens in women drop back toward a normal range. Testosterone in men stabilizes again. And the visible result, for a lot of people, is skin that clears up in a way that years of creams, washes, and topical treatments never quite managed, because this time the problem is being fixed from the inside at the actual hormonal source, instead of being papered over on the surface. It usually doesn't happen overnight. Skin has its own slower rhythm. Give it a few weeks of consistent, sugar-free hormonal balance, and the difference becomes hard to miss. Less redness, fewer new breakouts showing up overnight. A kind of evenness and glow that no serum ever quite delivered, simply because the inflammatory trigger driving the problem has finally been removed. Now here's the part that catches people off guard, and it's important you know it's coming, because if you don't expect it, you might think something has gone wrong. Right around the 3-day mark, your body has to make a major switch. For years, it's been running primarily on sugar as its main fuel source. Now, with sugar gone, it has to relearn how to run on fat instead. This isn't instant. It's a genuine metabolic transition, and like any major system change, there's a brief adjustment period where things can actually feel a little worse before they get noticeably better. Some stiffness, some achiness, maybe a bit more fatigue than you'd expect, almost like a mild flu passing through. This is completely normal, and it's temporary. It's your body rewiring its entire fuel system from the ground up, not a sign that you're doing something wrong. There are ways to make this transition smoother, though. Nutritional yeast is a great source of B vitamins, which support your body through this exact metabolic shift, and getting enough potassium can also help ease some of that rough patch considerably. A few days of feeling slightly off is a small price to pay for what's waiting on the other side. A body that runs on fat instead of sugar, with steadier energy and far less inflammation humming beneath the surface than before. Think of it like switching the fuel a car runs on mid-trip. For a few minutes, the engine sputters and adjusts while it recalibrates to the new fuel mixture. It's not breaking down, it's recalibrating. Push through that brief, rough idle, and the engine runs cleaner and more efficiently than it ever did before. And that inflammation piece matters more than most people realize, because it's not just about how you feel from day to day. It's about what's happening deep inside your body, in places you can't see or feel directly, where the real long-term payoff of quitting sugar is quietly taking shape behind the scenes. Everything we've covered so far, the cravings, the hunger, the energy, the mood, the skin, the rough adjustment period, all of that happens within the first few weeks. But the benefits don't stop there. In fact, some of the most important changes are just getting started at this point, happening silently, deep inside organs and systems you never think about until something eventually goes wrong with them. Let's go there next. Start with your arteries. Sugar drives chronic, low-grade inflammation throughout your blood vessels. The kind of inflammation that doesn't hurt, doesn't show any obvious symptoms, and yet steadily damages the delicate lining of your arterial walls over years of exposure. That ongoing inflammation is a major contributor to plaque buildup inside your arteries, the kind that narrows blood flow and quietly sets the stage for blood clots, strokes, and heart attacks down the road. Remove sugar, and that inflammatory pressure drops significantly. Your blood vessels finally get a chance to calm down and heal, dramatically lowering your long-term risk for the kind of cardiovascular events that tend to show up decades later. Except now you're working to prevent them years before they'd ever have a real chance to happen. This is arguably the most important shift of all. even though it's the one you'll never actually feel happening. There's no sensation attached to a healthier artery wall, no notification telling you your risk just dropped. It's silent, invisible repair work, the kind that simply shows up decades later as a heart attack that never happened, a stroke that never occurred. You're not just feeling better today, you're quietly rewriting your own future. Then there's your brain, and this one is genuinely remarkable. When your metabolism shifts away from sugar and starts relying on ketones, a fuel your body produces from fat, something extraordinary happens at the cellular level. Ketones don't just power your brain more efficiently than sugar ever did, they actively support the growth of brand new nerve cells. That means cutting sugar isn't just protecting your brain from future damage, it's actively encouraging it to grow, regenerate, and build new neural connections, something most people assume only really happens when you're young. There's something almost poetic about that. The same decision that calms your arteries and clears your skin is simultaneously prompting your brain to build new infrastructure for thinking, learning, and remembering. Most interventions claim to either protect what you have or help you grow, rarely both at once. Your liver tells a similar story. Years of excess sugar don't just affect your waistline from the outside, a huge amount of that sugar gets converted directly into fat and stored inside your liver itself, a condition known as fatty liver disease. It's incredibly common, and one of its most visible signs is a stubbornly large, rounded belly that doesn't respond to normal diet or exercise changes, no matter how hard you push. Once sugar is removed, your body begins actively breaking down and clearing out that stored fat and from inside the liver tissue. Over time, this process can genuinely help reverse fatty liver, restoring one of your body's most important detoxifying organs back toward full, healthy function. Your liver does an enormous amount of unglamorous, unseen work, filtering toxins, processing nutrients, regulating hormones, and it does all of that work better when it isn't busy storing away sugar it never asked for. Lightening that load doesn't just shrink a stubborn belly. It frees up an organ that touches nearly every other system in your body to actually do its job properly again. And finally, your kidneys. These two small organs filter your entire blood supply continuously every single day of your life, and chronically high sugar levels put them under constant, grinding stress. Lowering your sugar intake takes a tremendous amount of pressure off your kidneys, protecting them from the kind of long-term damage that sugar quietly accumulates over years without you ever noticing. The result is measurably improved kidney function, better filtration, less strain, and a talk. Significantly reduced risk of the kind of kidney complications that elevated blood sugar is notorious for causing over time. Like the arteries, this is invisible work. You won't wake up one morning and feel your kidneys functioning better. But filtration is filtration, and an organ under less chronic strain today is an organ far more likely to still be working well for you decades from now. Quietly, reliably, in the background, exactly the way it's supposed to. So when you add it all up, the cravings that disappear, the hunger that finally starts making sense, the mental fog that lifts, the water weight and stubborn fat that start melting away, the calmer mood and sharper focus, the clearer skin, even that rough 3-day adjustment period, what you're really looking at is a body quietly repairing itself from the inside out, your arteries calming down, your brain growing new cells instead of just barely surviving, your liver clearing out years of stored damage, your kidneys finally getting a break after years of overwork. None of this happens because of some extreme, complicated overhaul or an expensive program. It happens because of one single change, taking sugar off the table completely and consistently, day after day. The first few days might be the hardest part of the entire journey, but everything that comes after that, every single benefit we just walked through together, is your body's reward for finally getting the fuel it was always meant to run on in the first place. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. We tend to think of cutting sugar as giving something up, a sacrifice, a restriction, one more thing to white-knuckle through. But look at everything on the other side of that decision. Calmer arteries, a sharper brain, a lighter liver, steadier kidneys, clearer skin, real energy, and a mind finally free from the constant tug of a craving it never actually chose for itself. Well, that's not a sacrifice. That's a trade, and once you see the full scope of what's on the other side of it, It starts to look like one of the easiest trades you'll ever make.